Hi, I'm Bonnie Kempke. Welcome to my studio and welcome to Quilting on a Thread. Today I want to talk about hooping your very first quilt on your new Cutie Breeze frame. So a lot of you have noticed in some of my imagery that I have these rulers on both my front and my back rail. So I want to talk about that first. So this is a 3M-like, washi tape-like product that I buy at Hobby Lobby, but you can buy it on Amazon and you can buy it at a variety of other locations. So this tape only goes from 1 to 12 and then it tears off, but you don't have to tear it off, you can just extend it. And so I start at the very center of my frame, so I measure it out and find exactly the center, start the tape out, roll it out. When I get to the gray clipping area, I cut the tape off. I do the same going in the other direction, but in the other direction, the numbers are now upside down because the tape only orients in one direction. So I go from one out, and I do that on both the front and the back rails. That taping of the ruler on my rails is to help me when I'm loading my quilts. So if it matches up on this inch number 2 here, then in the back I should match it up on inch number 2 so that now I have a straight line of my quilt from rail to rail. Now this is strictly a matter of preference, but I usually like to start with my machine in the center. It makes me feel like I have more space to play with what I'm trying to line up on this side. So I have everything that I'm going to need on a stool here behind me. That's just the way I work. So all 7 of my hoop clips are over here. The 3 curls are over here. Now the one exception to that is these miniature quilt clips. I found that this is just a good place to clip them. I clip them all up together and I come over and clip them into the little pocket that is on the side of my handlebar bracket. They're there and I'm not going to lose them, and they're clipped on so they're not going to fall off. I just like them there because they're small. It's going to be something I'll lose. So with that said, let's begin. Now I don't know if I mentioned that I also use these weighted bags. These happen to be filled with seed beads. You could make these bags out of beans, out of rice, but it's a pound of something weighted and the bag is big enough that the content inside can move. In addition to the seed bags, I have a ruler that is 2 inches deep. The reason why I have this ruler 2 inches deep is because if you read your manual, it said that we should load our quilt up 2 inches from the back rail. Now that 2 inches means 2 inches from the clip's back rail. So if you measured 2 inches directly from the back rail, when you put your clip on, you're actually going to be moving your quilt forward. So the 2 inches is from the back rail while your clips are in place. So then let's just pick up our quilt and bring it over here. And I usually start with a roll. Most of the quilts I do are king size quilts, so it's kind of weird to be playing with something so small. I just want to distribute some of the weight around a little bit. And at this point, I want to pull up enough of this quilt that I can get it to the back rail. And remember, I told you about those bean bags? Here's where the bean bags come in handy. I can let the quilt unfurl now and put the bean bags on my quilt body, and it'll hold it somewhat in place. Now I've got the head of my machine, and I've got a quilt that needs to go there. So what I want to do is bring that machine forward ever so slowly, guiding it over the batting and the backing until I get to the quilt body itself. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring that machine forward, and now I know that the machine is safely on top of the quilt. So the thing is to guide your quilt body, the batting, the backing, and the top underneath the foot of your quilt, of your machine. So now that I've got that, I can straighten some of this out a little bit more. I've got the weights holding it in place, so if I have to step aside, I'm free to do so. Now that that's here, I'm going to bring the weights over this way. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I will be shifting everything in this direction because I need to start out with the edge of my quilt 8 inches away from my my side rail. So I just come over here, and with those weights in place, I can just shift the quilt, and the sewing machine may come along with it. That's because it's so easy to roll around on the tracks. This is where my ruler on the back comes in really good. So I'm looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches. And I want to line up the beginning of my quilt stitching, my quilt side, with that 8 inches. And so that's about it. Once I have that in place, then I can use the mark on this side to make sure that the batting and backing on both the front and the back line up in the same place. Now this is not an exact science. The only exactness I have to worry about is being sure that I get my quilt on straight. So once I'm about there, now I pull all the fullness out of this. And transfer the weights again. See, these weights are very handy because they let me not have to be mindful of the whole quilt body all at the same time. Because I guarantee you, things will shift and it'll get very uncomfortable pretty quickly. So once I'm about sure that I have this where I want, I'll go ahead and move the weights entirely to the back. Right now I'm eyeballing things just to get it even. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be close. And so I will come ahead and bring a ruler and go ahead and measure about 4 inches away from the point of the rail. Is because when I put those clips on, it's going to suck some of the quilt up underneath. So if I'm about 4 inches, that's going to put me 2 to 3 inches off the ruler, off the rail when I clip up. Now I could have done this all by eyeball. I'm just impulsive, if you will. Okay, so now that that's all in, I do like to clip from the center first. And the reason being is that way I can adjust anything on the sides. So take one of my small clips. The trick about these clips, you want to find the flat edge and you want to press it into the flat edge. And it helps if you use the palm of your hand and find that flat edge and push and kind of let it walk in place. So take the second one, smooth this all out, find that edge, and let it walk in place. Sometimes you'll do what I just did and snag yourself. So now I'll move this one over. And you saw how that dropped a little bit, so I'll pick it back up and put it in its approximate location. And then drop it in place. This is where you then take a look at everything and see if there's any twists. And indeed, there's a little bit of twisting that I don't like here. So this is where these clips are really difficult, but if you take the flat of your finger and put it underneath the flat of the clip on the front and the flat of the clip on the back, and be sure to pull straight across, coming out a flat side. Then that will let you pull it off. The key is use the flat of the frame. Now I'm going to take a ruler, and this ruler, as I mentioned before, is exactly 2 inches in depth. So take that ruler and go from the clips out, and I want it to be 2 inches or a smidge more. This clip is a little bit too far, so I'm going to pull this clip off. Again, you got to get it to come off flat. Give myself a little bit of play on the material. Go through the flat. That does look better already. Yes. Now I'm very, very even. So now this guy can be anywhere I like. I want to go ahead and smooth my quilt body out as much as possible. It helps to start kind of in the center here. Again, want to go from the edge, so clip and press. Do the same thing over here. Clip and press. Now, this is too loose. The cool thing about these clips is they ratchet. So just ratchet it 1 notch at a time until it isn't so loose anymore. You don't want it so tight that there's no give, but you don't want all that bounce that it had. So now there's a nice bit of give. You can reach your palm up and press it a little bit. There's also the penny drop trick. I personally don't use the penny drop trick, but it's not a bad trick. You want to drop something small and cylindrical. The weight of a penny is pretty good. Drop it, and if it just bounces a little and falls flat, it's fine. If it just drops and sinks in, it's too loose, and if it keeps bouncing, it's too tight. So now we put the side clip in. Same thing. You don't want to try and go across a corner. You want to go on the flat. And then on this side, I'm going to be using bungees. I have them set down here. So I'm going to take my clip, clip it on there, turn it around. I like the clip coming off the farther side. So I'm going to take this little, this goes on the grooves that there's grooves on the end. Let me pull one of these clips back off. This happens to be the clips from my Cutie frame, because the clips on our Cutie Breeze are black. I just didn't take them off. I already had clips on these bungees, so I'm using these clips. So you see how that all pushed together? These clips go right over that. See how that clips? And this lets you slide it up and down the side clip. So it's very easy. So let me put this back on. And I'm going to slide the clips in place. Just the longer string first. slide it pretty much to the end, and then the shorter clip. Now the reason why I have a longer elastic on one side and a shorter elastic on the other side, on the back, it's short, and I'm just going to go straight over to my batting and backing. And what you want is you want that to give you an extension of pulling this straight. You don't want that elastic so tight that there's no give here. If you have it too tight, you'll burn your elastic up. And by burn your elastic up, I mean you'll wear out the elasticity. Now for this, I like to have my clip down here. So what I do is I wrap it around the side rail. Avoid that magnetic little clip there. You don't want your elastic under that magnetic little clip. Now I will tell you, this is the bungees are a convenience, but they are not a necessity. If you were quilting and you didn't have this secured, you could simply hold this while you're quilting on this end. But once you got past, say, 8 inches, you don't have to hold that anymore. You can let go of it. But by having that secured with the bungee clips, I don't have to worry about tethering it with my hand. Now what we have not done yet are the curls. The curls are really, really cool. They simply slide into the groove on either the front or back of your back clips. So let's just go put all 3 of those on. Remember that it's the clip and the curl that comes up inside, that stays up. You're taking the round portion and putting it in. And you see how easy those slide in. Then you bring your quilt forward, which in my instance means getting the machine out of the way. And there's not much to roll here at the moment. So I just bring that clip around to the back and I let it rest in the groove on the other side. So there's a hard ring here, hard pin, if you will, on the back of your, when you don't have much to hold on to your clip, as far as the way, you know, as far as quilt goes, then just bring it around and let it just it's kind of like an encasement, and that'll be fine. So now, now I want to make sure that the clips are going to work for me. So here I am at the top of my quilt body, which I know is 2 inches in off of the clips. I have just enough room. And if I had a different machine that had a smaller head, because this thing has a big head. The Allegro and the Jazz have a very, very large head. Most of our machines come in and they're much more compact here at the head. So this is going to just give me enough space to do the lettering that I'm going to do at the top of the quilt. And I've hit the bumper, and that's what the bumper's for, it's to protect you. Now, these blue clips. Say I didn't want, like if I plan on sitting on my stool that I have behind me, then I could simply bring this up, just line it up with the clips, pull the blue quilt, you know, the mini quilt clips apart, and find a place where I want one to go. Just clip it on top. I usually go from end to end and then clip one in the middle. And the whole purpose of these mini clips is not to lock the quilt in place, but just to give me space so that if I want to sit at my machine, I'm not fighting the quilt body. And in this position, I can see my needle, and I've got position for my hands. And everything is very comfortable. And I can see that needle, so I'm not craning and making myself uncomfortable. One thing you need to be aware of is that the more you have to bend and twist around, the more you're going to get tired while quilting. And by having a nice comfortable position, and I got this at the right level that I can stand or sit, and I can still see my needle. But for those of us who have back problems, knee problems, hip problems, it's probably better if you can sit. And again, remember your machine should move freely. One finger. That's all it should require. And this is going to be the truth whether you're sewing or just positioning your machine. I should be able to sew with one finger on this button and the rest of my fingers just grabbing this and moving it in whatever directions I want. And you see how easy that is? And my thumb is able to be used to press that button if I wanted to. So that is hooping your frame, and I hope that this little video helps you out in your journey. Please join me again. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.